محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Amma ba'd, respected elders, scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Imam Zain al-Abidin عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام has a statement in his book entitled The Treatise of Rights, or in Arabic Risalatul Huquq, in which he discusses the right of the mother. And in that right, there is a particular line in which he states about the mother. He says, وَعْلَمْ إِنَّهَا أَطْعَمَتْكَ مِنْ ثَمَرِ قَلْبِهَا أو ثَمَرَةِ قَلْبِهَا مَا لَا يُطْعَمْ أَحَدٌ أَحَدًا. In reference to the mother. The English translation for that is, know that in the right of the mother, that you should know that the mother has fed you from the fruit of her heart that which no one feeds anyone, giving you an impact of the closeness in relation with any mother with a child. That at one stage they were inside her, and when they were inside her, the Imam states that out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only through the mother did he get nourishment, not only through the mother did he get care and tenderness, but also Allah states in the Quran the rank of the mother, and we will get to that inshallah soon. Tonight inshallah is in reference to the right of the mother. On the first level, we want to look at the importance of knowing someone's mother. Why? Because we're looking to history, and we'll see what kind of people did not know who their parents were, and what catastrophic effect they have in society. And then we'd like to look at the people that knew who their parents were and how they were light within society. On the first level. On the second level, we'd like to look at the etiquettes of how a mother should be in relations to her children. And on the third and conclusive level, inshallah, we will look at a particular fact in everyday life in which the relations with your mother is intertwined, or the relationship with your father is intertwined to the relationship you shall have with your children. So to start tonight's lecture, please help me in reciting aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When we look into the depths of history, we want to see who in history did not know who their parents were, and what this particular trade had as an effect in the society they lived in, had an effect in the community. Did it or did it not have an effect on their loving towards Ahl al-Bayt, their loving towards the message? Did it or did not have an effect? Let's look into the history books. When you look into the Quran, there is a particular surah in the end in which everyone recites, and where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar. This is the verse I want to get at. Inna shani'aka huwal abtar. Look into the theologians and what they say about the translation of this particular ayah. When you look into the books, this particular verse was sent down by a particular person by the name of Al-As. Now when we remember, is there anyone that we know in the history books that has a father by the name of As? We look at Muawiyah's right hand man, his name is known as, in the history books, Amr ibn al-As. Let's look at the ayah in place when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet, Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. What was the story revolving around this particular incident? When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a son, this son lived up to, in some narrations, 6 months. In other narrations it said he lived up to 2 years of age. That particular son died at a young age. When he would go into the streets, instead of the people coming and saying, "Oh Rasulullah, take it easy to make this particular tragedy easier for the Prophet," we had people like Al-As, in which this narration comes forth and states, "Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar." What did he used to do? Al-As was known to come and follow the Prophet after he just lost his son and say what? And say to the Prophet, "Al-abtar, al-abtar." Meaning what? Meaning he did not have a lineage. Meaning he shall not inherit. Meaning there is no one to carry his name. Now when you look at Al-As, let's look at how Amr was called Ibn Al-As, because the narration clearly states that Al-As did not leave behind the lineage, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly states, "Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar." Look at how Amr was given the title Amr ibn Al-As. When someone takes it into perspective in a literal manner, when they say something is chosen out of the hat, they joke about it, they think as a metaphorical state. Amr ibn Al-As was given the title literally because his father's name was drawn out of a hat. Why? His mother wasn't the most humble or the best of people at the time. They counted how many people went into her household, and that particular stage they found 8 people went into that household. From those 8 people, the names were put into a hat. They drawed the names out. The first name was who? Al-As. They said, well, we'll call this person by the name of Amr ibn Al-As. These are the likes of the people that stood in the face of Islam. These are the likes of the people that stood in the face of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Look into this particular person's life. You'll begin to see, even in Siffin, when Ali ibn Abi Talib chases Amr ibn Al-As, he never calls him by Amr ibn Al-As. What does Imam Ali alayhi salam call him? He says Ibn al-Nabigh. He calls him by his mother's name. Does not mention As, because he knew that was not his father. If you go into the depths of the history books, you will begin to see absolute tragedies and stuff that will honestly make your head bald. When you look into this, Amr ibn Nabigh, as we want to talk about him tonight, on the battlefield when Ali ibn Abi Talib goes after him and is about to strike, what does Amr ibn Nabigh do? He reveals, as we say, he dropped his dax. He was completely nude, so Ali ibn Abi Talib would not strike him, because he knew Ali ibn Abi Talib of the utmost purity would not look towards him. People reach such lows in society. They humiliate themselves to keep death. Then we look at Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What does he say? He says, Hayhat minnal dhilla, on the 10th of محرم. Moving on, let's look at other people. That's one example of history. What's another example in history of people that did not know who their father was? If anyone has seen the series of Al-Mukhtar, it goes through the lifetime of what the Mukhtar did and achieved throughout his reign. Out of the particular events that took place, he captured the 10 horse riders that trampled on the body of Abu Abdullah. When he collected these 10 horse riders, he brought them into the courtroom to say, why is it you commit such a treason? Why is it that you commit such a low act towards the grandson of the Prophet of Islam? What does he say? He asks them, who are you and what is your father's name? In Arabia, it's honor, it's something above to be known by your father. Al-abd or al-insan yukram bi-ahli. When a person comes, they know him because of his family. If someone comes that's the son of a sheikh or a son of a alim, it comes into a particular majlis, yukram. Meaning people will honor him, will move aside for him. They will sit them in their place because who? Because of their fathers. Because of who their family are. Is that not correct? We look at when Al-Mukhtar talks to these people. Who are your fathers? What was the reply? Out of the 10 horse riders that trampled on the body of Abu Abdullah, none knew who their fathers were. None of them knew who their fathers were. Does this or does this not cause disunity in society? Does this not corrupt society in itself? But it also gives you an image of who were the people on the side of Ali ibn Abi Talib and who were the people that opposed him. On other levels such as spiritual, such as that goes into the essence of a mankind's making. Moving on, let's look at the etiquettes of relationships with the parents. Of the etiquettes, Imam Zayn al-Abidin has a beautiful statement. He says of the etiquettes is that when you walk, make sure you walk behind your father. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a man came to him one day and he said, "Oh Rasulullah, I do not gain sustenance. I don't have rizq." One of the questions he asked him, he says, "Do you walk in front of your father or does your father walk in front of you?" He says, "Well, I walk in front of my father." He says, "That's why you have not gained sustenance." He says, "Allah stops the rizq if you walk in front of your father." He says, "You must walk behind your father. When your father enters a room, make sure out of honor and respect for your father, you get up. You sit him in your place. You walk behind him." Furthermore, what else does he tell us? He tells us, make sure, look at this point, brothers and sisters, make sure you do not commit any act or are found in any place where it may put your father or your mother's reputation on the line. What does that mean? It means if your father and mother have spent their whole life putting brick by brick to have a foundation which people can revere them by, to say this is the son of such and such, when you go out and think to yourself, no one's watching me commit this particular sin, no one's going to watch me enter this particular place of haram, no one's going to see me walk with this particular person, remember before you commit that act that the reputation of your father and mother is on the line. That's why Imam Zayn al-Abidin has the statement, do not do an act that may endanger the reputation of your parents. Look at the beauty of that. Furthermore, they say, look at the relationship you should have between a mother and a daughter. In the same way that the father-son relationship is, the mother-daughter relationship should be. When a mother enters, the daughter should get up, should assist her. She walks behind her mother. And also in that side, we see she should not commit a particular act that may endanger her mother or father's reputation. Now on the flip side, we find that this is a means. What do I mean? When a particular person goes elsewhere, you have to ask the question, why is it that this particular boy or girl goes towards other places? It's a very vital question. Why is it that they do not seek the attention from their parents, from their close ones? The Prophet has a beautiful statement in which he teaches us how to raise our children. He says, raising a child is in 3 stages. What are the 3 stages? I guarantee if everyone put this into perspective, that most of their troubles within the relationship will disappear. What's this advice? The Prophet says 3 levels in which you have to bring up your children. The first level is from childbirth up until 7 years of age. He says what? He says let them be, let their imaginations run wild, let them do whatever they want, as long as they do not kill themselves, but let them explore the world, as they say. From 7, that's when it starts. They haven't reached the age of puberty. They haven't reached an age where they are governed by their actions. From the age of 7 until the age of 14, this is the important period. Why? Because from the age of 7 till the age of 14, the Prophet of Islam says you teach them. Not just that this is halal, this is haram. But you teach them the reasoning behind it. Why? When you find a particular woman, after a lifetime of wearing a hijab, comes one day and takes it off, where will you point the fingers? Would you point the fingers at the girl? A lot of people do. But the main aspect is how she was taught the hijab. If at 7 years of age till 14, the concept of hijab was taught properly, if the concept of hijab through the eyes of Fatima al-Zahra, if the concept of hijab through the eyes of Zainab was taught in the correct manner, if they knew the essence of hijab, do you think 30 years onwards they would even dare think about taking the hijab off? But the problem is where? Is not in telling them this is halal and haram. It's about educating them. And there's a way in which you do it. Because a lot of people become the people in the community that, you know what, I have to be this pious person that tells everyone what to do. Imam Ali says, look in yourself first. If you do not find faults, then find the faults in others. When a person in front of everyone says you are committing a sin, this is bad, you should not do this, or for a sister that's not wearing a hijab properly in front of everyone, she's not wearing it properly, that's not the right means. In a reverse effect, that act can take her away from the religion. There are etiquettes in which telling the message. There are etiquettes in which delivering this particular message. How? Look at the etiquettes of the grandchildren of the Prophet of Islam. Did they in front of a community go and attack a person? Did they ever in front of a community degrade someone? Because you have to look into this, brothers and sisters. Why is it that we have them as an example? Because we have to follow in their footsteps. How does Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein go about teaching someone that was on a wrong path? Everyone knows this narration. But look at the beauty of it. We shall remember it inshallah tonight. A person at an old age, Shaykhun Kabir, as the narration states, he came to perform wudu. I'm sure everyone come across this particular narration. He's come to perform wudu. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein see that his wudu is wrong. Do they go up to him and say, all these years you've been performing it wrong. Your salah, your siyam, everything that you do is completely down the drain. We have people in the community that do this. Let's look at Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. They're our leaders. They are the people that we have to go in their footsteps. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein go towards him at a young age. They weren't old, they were young. They say, "Oh Shaykh, will you not guide us?" He says, "What do you want, oh grandchildren of the Prophet?" He says, "We want to perform wudu in front of you. And you tell us which one is doing it correctly, which one is doing it in a wrong manner." Imam Hassan and Hussein obviously have wudu in the exact same manner, do they not? So they make the exact same wudu. After performing the exact same wudu, that message reaches that old man. And he says, "Oh grandchildren of the Prophet, how beautiful is your etiquette. You have taught me that I have performed wudu wrong all this time." Do we put that into perspective, brothers and sisters? Do we take someone, put them aside and tell them, this is what's wrong, this is what we believe that you can improve on, A, B, C, or do we embarrass them in front of the community? That's a question. How to raise your children. How to raise your children. On the third level, Imam alayhi salam, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also states that on the third level, 14 onwards, make sure you and them are the best of friends. Why? Because when they have a secret, when they have a trial, when they have a tribulation, when they are interested in someone, if you are not there, so you have a shoulder for them to lean on, 100% they will go towards other shoulders to lean on in the community. Whether it be in a halal manner or a haram manner. If that lady goes towards her mother and tries to tell her about a particular problem she has, and the mother doesn't pay attention, or the father doesn't pay attention, she goes elsewhere. Simply, and how many stories have we heard? One status update on Facebook. I'm feeling down, as an example, and you find all these guys beginning to comment, what's wrong? Tell me more. Lean on my shoulder. And this is where the haram relationship starts. Why? Because her mother did not even want to pay attention when she needed her the most. This is how communities are broken apart. This is how society begins to crumble. Onwards, the best of friends, because they'll come to you and seek your advice. Because you are at an older level. You have seen more things in your time. True, you may not relate to the particular situation, but you can give them some sense of advice, how to go about it, how not to go about it. If you are the best of friends, they will not seek help elsewhere. Furthermore, in etiquettes, if we have a household, brothers and sisters, that remembers Allah, that remembers the Ahlul Bayt, and we put it into account, when we look into society nowadays, and we look at the relationship that builds this particular child, in a relationship where a household, the father calls the mother names, and the mother calls the father names, what kind of community, or what kind of environment does that child, or is this child being raised in? If he hears this, surely when he grows up he will say the same to his wife. But when we look at Ahlul Bayt, did Fatima Zahra call Imam Ali Ali? Look at the detail. Did Ali ibn Abi Talib call her Fatima, or was there a particular beauty aspect about it? When Ali ibn Abi Talib calls Fatima Zahra, what does he call her by? Ya bint Rasulillah, O daughter of the Prophet of Islam. What does she call him by? O Amirul Mu'mineen. O Amirul Mu'mineen. Look at the level of beauty between those two people that are the guidance for this humanity. The greatest two people after the Prophet that walked this earth. When you look at community relations, when you look at family problems, you have a reference point which is the Prophet. You have a reference point which is Ali and Fatima. Look what they installed in their life, and then you will begin to realize what you have to do. On the first level. On the second level, going back to the topic, which was the level of relationship you should have with your mother. Let's look at the mother's rank within time briefly and see how Islam began to raise the mother. In historical books, you find the greatest of nations did not give the rights that Islam gave. Either they were not taken as human beings, either they were not given heritage, either they were killed instead of a man. And you look into the historical books and you begin to see the level of females. But when you look at Islam, look how it reformed the woman. On one level you find the second Khalifa with a hadith that states, he says to the Prophet of Islam, I remember two particular acts. One which makes me smile, and one which makes me bawl my eyes out. What are these two narrations? He said the first that made me smile was what? He says in the time of Jahiliyyah, he says we had a particular sanam, a particular statue that we built from what? From the dates, tamar. He says it makes me laugh because when I remember it, we used to prostrate to this so-called God, and we used to all look left, we used to all look right, no one's looking, we take a bit of dates and we have dates. As time progressed, everyone else is doing the same thing and God is no more. Wal-'iyadhu billah. So he says, when I remember that, it makes me smile. The Prophet says, what makes you cry? What makes you cry? He says, when I remember my daughter, it makes me cry. There's a particular backstory towards how his daughter even lived up to 4 years of age. His wife kept it a secret that his daughter was alive. She said that she had a miscarriage, and this is the daughter of the neighbors. He created a relationship with this particular person until his wife told him, this is actually your daughter. What does Umar ibn al-Khattab do? He takes her straight away to the deserts. He begins to dig up a hole. Because in Arabia, they used to bury their daughters alive. He digs up this hole. And he says, my daughter helped me dig this hole. When she helped me dig it, I felt no remorse. I felt no sorrow. He says, she helped me dig it. Furthermore, she goes and she gets a branch from a palm tree to shade me from the heat of Arabia. He says, still my heart did not soften towards her. He says, furthermore, after she helped me dig her grave, I placed it in the grave. And she's looking at me with the utmost certainty that there's nothing that's bad that's going to happen to her. And he began to fill the grave, and fill the grave, and fill the grave, until he says that the only thing I saw was her hand that actually tried to hold on to me. For dear life, he says, even that I did not have sorrow towards her. Furthermore, he actually stepped on her hand and broke it. He says, when I remember that, I begin to cry. To give you an idea of prior to Islam, how the woman was treated, how the woman had a level. However, when the Prophet of Islam came, what rank did he give the woman? What rank did he give the mother in particular? Did he not raise the rank? He raised the rank. And he raised the rank. And he raised the mother's rank until what? Until he said the greatest achievement in which a person can achieve is what? Jannah. Where is it? He says it lies under the feet of your mothers. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That's why it's barbaric to say that I give the same attention towards my mother in which she gave me once upon a time. Why? Because when you look at how a mother took care of us, and you look at the flip side how we took care of our mothers, what do we see? Of our fathers, what do we see? They stayed up the night. Imam Zayn al-Abidin states this. They stayed up the night and did not rest until we were resting. They did not quench their thirst until our thirst was what? Was quenched. They did not eat until they knew that we were full. They would stay in the heat so we would be in the shadow. They would be in sadness and in sorrow. So what? So we are happy. And the Imam goes on and on to show what? That when the mother and the father are bringing us up, this is a very important and delicate point, brothers and sisters. It says when our parents are bringing us up, especially the mother, she's bringing us up thinking that one day my son, one day my daughter will be married, will achieve a great rank, will live on, will bring forth children to this world, will achieve happiness. However, if you reverse the scales and you think to yourself, what is the intellect that I have looking after my parents? Do I think there's a future ahead? Or am I thinking there's only a couple more years left that I have to bear them? Is it not? Do we have this tumuh, this amal, that they will reach a rank in which they will flourish and marry and go on and live their life after we die? No, our parents had that. Our parents thinking to themselves when they bring us up, that even when I die, this person, my child, will live on. That's why you can never repay them for what they have done to you. The ending level is what I want to look at in the concept of karma. When you look at karma within historical books, you look at a particular narration that a man states that my father reached an old age in which I needed to assist him with every single part of his welfare. He used to go to the bathroom, I need to assist him. He need to have a shower, I would assist him. He would go anywhere, I'd need to assist him. So I was fed up, I took my father, he says, and went to the deserts. He says, when I went to the desert, I put my father under a palm tree and left him for dead. He says, I began to look at the facial expressions of my father for the last time. He says, I looked at his face and he smiles. Then he begins to laugh. Then what? He says, then he begins to bawl his eyes out. Why? He asks him, Father, I've never seen you like this. What's wrong? He says, do not be afraid, my son. It's not because you leave me here. I'm not sorry for that. He says, because you reminded me of what I did at your age. He says, what was it that you have done that made you cry? He says, like my father before me. He says, I had to take care of my father. He reached a stage that I am in now. And I took him towards the desert. And I placed him under a palm tree just like that of which you have placed me. The son does what? He quickly picks up his father and puts him on his back. And he takes him home. He says, why? Why is it that you assist me, O son? He says, because I do not want my son to do that to me which I have done to you. Do you understand the concept, brothers and sisters? If you ever do anything towards your parents, do not be surprised if one day your sons or your daughters do the same in your perspective. If you so far as raise your voice or disrespect or do something behind the backs of your parents, do not be surprised if one day your sons and your daughters do the same to you. Go behind your backs, lie to your face, elevate their voice in your face. It's all in a balance. That's what you have to be remembered, brothers and sisters, from tonight, inshallah. And that brings me to the end of my lecture tonight, but I cannot stress the importance of relationships with your parents, brothers and sisters, because only a person that does not have his mother or his father around is the only person that can begin to illustrate the manner in which he is repentful and sorrowful to be with his parents. He regrets every moment he raised his voice. He regrets every moment that his mother or father said his name to assist them and he turned a blind eye. Because today we might have our parents in our midst. We might be angry with them. We might have ill relations. But tomorrow, brothers and sisters, who is to say that they will be there then and then? Grasp your opportunities while they are alive. Even when they are dead, brothers and sisters, whatever you do in this life will affect them in the hereafter. If you go towards good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them even in the grave. If you do that which is haram, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish them even in the grave because they raised you. We end on this note, brothers and sisters, and inshallah we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put us amongst those that respect their parents, to enable us to elevate in the ranks in which their parents and us have a relationship, to elevate us in a rank in which we can call ourselves the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and to resurrect us on the day of judgment amongst the people of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. We pray to Allah with a Fatiha, but before it 3 of your loudest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.